First one we've got is the product itself. So this is a ZowieTek ZowieBox. That is what it's called. On the back, there's nothing really there to look at. Moving to the side, we've got I believe that's an HDMI output. So that goes to your TV. It's also got a micro SD card slot. So I assume you can store some footage on that if you're wanting to have a backup in addition to the network. We've also got a USB host right here. We'll have to see what this is capable of. Probably used for firmware updates and that sort of thing, but maybe it does more. We've also got a microphone input and a headphone output right there. So if you want to connect the microphone to this device for capture, you can do that. If you want to monitor your audio, I assume you can do that through here as well. On the other side, we've got a USB-C port for power. This is what most people will probably end up using just to power the device. Next to that is the network port. And I'm told that this supports PoE. So what you can do is you can have a network cable supplying power to the device in addition to a data connection. So that should work pretty well if you have it in a rack or something like that. You can just use one cable to get power to it as well. There's also a DC output right here. I'm not sure if that means you can power it via DC or it can power other devices via DC. We'll have to see, but that's available right there. And the last one, of course, is your HDMI input. So you plug in your input device into here. So that will be a console or a camera or whatever it may be. And then it has the pass through, so you can plug your TV in this side and it does all its magic. So let's put that to the side for now. So back to the box, we've got a USB-C to USB-C cable right here. And it is braided, so it looks like it's decent quality, which is good. Next thing in the box we've got is a little power adapter. And there's one last thing you get, which is this little adapter here. It looks like it allows you to use multiple devices on the one tripod mount. So we'll have to see how well that works and what you can use it for, but it's a nice inclusion. Okay, so let's get the device itself plugged in. To do that, I'm going to use PoE. So I have this network cable that's connected to a PoE switch. Unfortunately, the clip on it doesn't work, but we should be fine without that. So where's the network port? Down here. Let's plug that on in the correct way. And there we go. We've got a white light right there and a little ZowieTek logo there. Okay, so right now it's showing me some details on the encoder as well as its IP address. That's pretty cool. That shows you the connection type as well. So it is on the network because it's got the IP address. That light has since gone out though, which is good. I will leave this down here for a minute and we'll see if we can go over to a computer and potentially connect to it. All right, so here we are now on a PC. So what I'm just going to do is go to the IP address displayed on the device itself, which is 10.4.20.24. And that brings us to a ZowieTek login page. And I'm going to guess that the default password is below. Admin, it is. Cool. So we're now in the ZowieTek dashboard. So right here, we've got our live view immediately. So you can full screen that. If you had something connected to it, obviously it would display there. What I might try is just see if I can get a HDMI device connected now. Let's plug in an Xbox or something, see how that goes. All right, so I've now plugged in an HDMI device and as you can now see, it is displaying. And these controls here, I assume won't work because it's not a pan, tilt, zoom camera. I think these will be the same, but we've got a few different options here. So if we add a internet stream, it looks like you can go add. You can choose the protocol, so RTMP or SRT. RTMP is really good because it's the most popular protocol for live streaming. So if you wanted to stream to like an OBS streaming server you had somewhere, like let's say you were remote, like you had this device with you, you're at some event or something, you could be running a streaming server that this device talks back to and transmits that video stream to, and you can do that over RTMP. You could also stream directly to Twitch or to YouTube using RTMP like this, so that's pretty cool as well. So you can turn on the audio here, which is pretty cool. You can go full screen, minimize it. What's this one here? Oh, you can do like a transition. That's pretty cool. All right, what's this one? So you can zoom in. I can zoom in all the way to these birds right here. You can zoom out beyond the video even if you want to. So let's just leave it as it was. So you can also rotate it. That's pretty cool. What's this one here? You can move it around. So if you're zoomed in, you can move it around. So you can just have like the Spotify logo. Like let's say you had a camera and you wanted to crop it. You could do it through here, which is pretty cool. So let's just reset that. I think that, erase button here undoes everything, which it does. Now let's go into the settings page. So we'll start in the dashboard. Looks like it gives you a bit of an overview here. So CPU usage, and you got memory usage. It's working in encoder mode. Its signal source is 1080p 60, and the DC output is disabled. Before I go any further, I'm just going to go back to the live view, and we're just going to check if we can do a 4K output on this. So if we go into the display settings, should be down here. Resolution. We can do 4K UHD. Let's see if it goes through. So no, that did not appear to work. There might be an issue with my cable though, so we'll have to come back to that one. Let's just check what 4K TV details comes up with. Okay, so it does claim to support 4K video as well as HDR10 and 50 Hertz. Okay, so I think it might just be the cable. It could be as simple as that. So there's quite a lot of information you've got right here. So you can do an internet ping, you can do a LAN ping. Those both succeeded. Looks like it's got multicast DNS support. It's got the MAC address, gateway, subnet, and IP address right there, which is useful to have. I mean, you won't use all these every day, but the IP address is right front and center, which is good. Discovery, what does that do? Maybe it finds other ZowieTek products on the network. Yeah, looks like it does. It just found itself, basically. Now, the main video stream at the moment looks like it's about 12,000 kilobits per second, which is pretty good quality. So for reference, Twitch maxes out at 6,000 kilobits per second unless you're a partner. I think partners get 8,000. And that's a pretty good bit rate to stream at. Like you won't see any noticeable quality loss at 1080p. When you start going beyond 1080p, that's where it's a bit more of a problem, but 12,000 kilobits is really good. All right, let's move on from the dashboard and go to the camera section and see what we've got in PTZ. So yeah, here's what I was talking about before. So you can configure an IP camera, basically, and then you can give it, I assume you can give it permission to control the pan tilt zoom, and you can do that all through the one device, which is pretty handy. As for the tally light, you got that on manual or automatic, so you can turn the light to red, green, or off. I'll just leave that off for now. Next is video. So I assume in here, yeah, you've got the input details. So this is set from the source device itself. If you had a 4K device, you would see a 4K output showing here. In my case, it's because I've got a bad cable. I'll see if we can change that shortly and maybe get a better output going. Encoder. So what have we got in here as options? So it's using a H.264, which is pretty standard. H.265 is better, but it's not as widely supported, so you're better off going with H.264. The resolution you can take as an input is max of 1080p, which is okay. CBR is good. VBR is really bad, so don't use VBR. Bitrate can go up to 50,000 kilobits per second. That is insane. iframe, that's the keyframes basically, so you can have them at best at every 20 frames, which is 3 times a second. That's pretty good. So you can have like a high quality frame there. And then of course you got rotation as well if you need that. Secondary stream is the same options. I'm not sure what the secondary stream input would be. Maybe this is just a slightly... Yeah, okay. So maybe you could have one rotated a different way. So you had 2 separate outputs for the same feed. Yeah, there could be some uses for this. Output format. It goes up to 4K 30, but it doesn't look like it supports 4K 60. So you'd probably want to stick with 1080p 60 in most cases. Unless you had a camera connected, then you'd want to use 4K 30 because that would just look a lot better. Now we've got OSD. So this looks like it's just a way to build like a canvas. Yeah, so you could have, well, let me try it. Test canvas. And then you could add objects to it, I assume. Let's start it first. Let's see what it does. So yeah, you could add random text here, and then you could add like an image. So if I add an image, for example, you could probably increase the size of this as well if you wanted. You probably just have to use a bigger image. But yeah, if I actually go to the recording of it, you might find these on top of the overlay. So that's pretty good. If you want to do like a watermark or something, this would be a good way of doing it. But I think we'll just leave it for now as it is. Going over to audio, so it supports AAC and MP3 as audio. I would like to do a higher bitrate than that, but it looks like it maxes out at 128 kilobits per second. Generally for my recordings, I record at 320 kilobits per second, so I do wish that went a bit higher, but that's still a perfectly good audio recording. So yeah, it can do stereo, it can do a source from HDMI or from line in. So if we go to HDMI and we save that, we now can go back to live and then unmute it. And we can now hear the audio in the browser. Yeah, you can see it's a bit pixely here. So this mustn't be the final output. Like NDI as an output is really high bit rate. So we must be doing some sort of RTMP or RSTP stream in the browser, because this is not what it would look like when you're actually using NDI. Yeah, there's audio streaming. So let's go local. Yeah, so as you can see here, there's 2 RTSP streams active, which is probably where it's pulling that video from. RTSP is not nearly as good as NDI in terms of quality, so we're probably not going to bother using these. In internet, you can add a stream. I showed this off earlier. You can just connect to Twitch or YouTube or Kick if you wanted. You can just put in the key, the stream URL and stream key here, and you can do that. Okay, so there's 2 options here. There's record and decoder. Decoder is grayed out. Record says there's no memory card found, so I assume it's going to be the same in decoder. But if you want to record, you can plug in an SD card and you can record video to that. So that would actually be pretty useful. So if you had like a console hooked up, you could just capture gameplay using the SD card slot rather than having to have a computer hooked up all the time. Now let's go into NDI. So this is the coolest thing about this. So NDI is a really cool protocol used for video streaming. So I use NDI every day. Firstly for OBS. So I use 2 different PCs. One does all the encoding and overlays and all that. One just plays the game. The one that plays the game, it just sends the video over NDI to the streaming PC. And that saves a lot of resources, including CPU and GPU, so your game just runs better. The other thing I use it for is for my webcam. So my webcam is run on my second PC as well. And then I use NVIDIA Broadcast, which does some cool effects like auto framing and background removal. And then that sends that video back to my main PC as an NDI video source. So let's enable this. You got 3 different quality types, HX, HX2, and HX3. I believe HX3 will be the best quality type, but we'll just stick with HX normal for now. Now the device name, I'll just call it Chris Encoder. Group is public, that's fine. Multicast, I'll leave that off. Time to live is 1, that's fine. Let's save that. That will take effect after restarting. So let's go into the next section then in the meantime. We got LAN settings, so that's just got DHCP configured at the moment, which is fine. Hotspot, so you can turn on a hotspot as well, and you can connect to that to control it from like your phone or whatever. That's pretty cool. So maybe there's an app or something. It looks like there might be based on this where you can control it from there as well. Now you've also got Wi-Fi over here. Now I probably wouldn't recommend using Wi-Fi for anything, just because you're already running a cable to the device anyway for power. You might as well just have that same cable do data, and Ethernet's going to be a better connection in the end, no matter what. So yeah, I wouldn't bother with the Wi-Fi, but it is there if you need it, I guess. Let's say if you're in like a spare room or something and you're trying to do a bit of a video or a stream even, you could use Wi-Fi for that. You get your port settings in here, so you can change the port for the web GUI, and you can change all the other protocol ports down here as well. I mean, most of the time, you'll probably never need to change any of these, to be honest. They're fine as they are. Multicast DNS is in here as well. You could change the host name. So I want to maybe call it Chris Encoder, and then it will give you this URL for Multicast DNS instead. If you click confirm, the device will restart soon. Oh, okay, let's do that. Device is restarting. And there we go, it's restarted. It wants me to log in again, that's fine. So yeah, you can see the name's now changed. So if I go to this URL, go directly to it, it'll probably be the same page. Yeah, just the admin page. Now there's also a NAS section. I wonder what this does. So NAS type CIFS. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I think what you can do with this is you can connect to a NAS and then save video to that, like transmit video to a local network storage device. That might be pretty useful if you want to like archive your video in 2 different places. You could do this as well. So like, let's say you're streaming to Twitch with NDI. You could also use this feature here to save it to your local network storage and then have a raw file available for video editing. That'll actually be super useful, because what I often need to do for video editing is I need to get like a raw version of the gameplay and also my camera. So having those separately saved beforehand on their own would be super handy. So I might actually look at setting this up with my camera and just having this always recording as a kind of raw video. All right, last section we've got system, so time and all that sort of stuff. All right, so we've got language and device name. I'll just change the name. Working mode, encoder or decoder. Oh, interesting. So you could use this as a network video decoder as well. Sorry. So basically what you can do with that is instead of running a device into it, you could run a TV off of it. So if you had a bunch of NDI sources or RTMP sources, you could just run them through your network back to this device and then plug in a display into it. And you have like a real-time live view of what you're recording. So that'd be pretty useful. I think this is more so for monitors and that sort of thing, but that's a cool feature. I didn't know you could change between them like that. We've got NDI here as well, which is activated. We've got user settings, so you can change the passwords on these accounts right here, it looks like. Probably not really much of a need to if it's just being used internally, but if you had it like on a corporate network or something like that, then it's probably a password you should change. Next is time zone. Let me change that to, I prefer au.pool.ntp.org, and let's do that. It's accurate as well. Nice. Default, so you can reset the settings in here. Update, you can upgrade the settings in here as well. And then you've got some logs here too. Yeah, it looks like that's all the settings you've got, which is pretty cool. So if we go back to the live view here, you can see this is what we've got. And just to demonstrate, let's go into OBS real quick. Where is it? So this is my OBS feed. And I'm just going to do studio mode so you guys don't get affected. But let's say we had a new scene. Let's just make one really quick here. Say ZowieBox. And what we would do is we just choose the option NDI source. Click OK, and then we can choose the device, which is just ZowieBox, Chris encoder. Click OK, and we should have the game capture right here. So I actually have a 1440p canvas, so I need to transform this to fit it. But here is the capture, and this is in pretty good quality because it's using NDI. So compared to the browser, this is a much better signal. Now I will say that this is a bit delayed. That is to be expected because if you are actually going to try and play games through this, what you would want to use is the HDMI output port. You wouldn't want to use the streaming feature. All right, so here's the raw video capture that we get through NDI. I've included the audio as well. It seems like it's a bit kind of pixely. That might explain why by default the audio input was set to the input on the device itself, like the 3.5mm input, rather than HDMI. Let me try loading up a world real quick. Okay, so yeah, we can see it's kind of a bit poppy in the audio. I think it's okay once you have something at a reasonable volume. It's just that the main menu music for Minecraft is particularly bad because it's really loud. But it seems to be okay. It's kind of usable. Obviously, I think the 3.5mm input is ideal. Like you wouldn't generally run audio over NDI. Like even I don't do that for my dual PC setup just because it often goes out of sync. It's really good for video I've found, but just audio is a bit tricky to get working with it. But yeah, I'm not going to say this is unusable. Like this is perfectly fine. Now that I'm loaded in. It just might be a bit too noisy in some cases for capture to work correctly. But of course, this is only one use for the device itself because you can also run cameras on it, of course. So let's just try that now and see how we go. So I've just figured out what this little piece does right here. So I thought it was to mount this box directly to a camera from the underside, but it's actually even better. So it's a cold shoe. So what it does is on most cameras, you've got this little shoe connector right here. So you can just slide this right on in. Yep. So now you put it in, you can tighten the bottom one right there. And then the top one is independent of it. So what you would then do if I just unplug the box right here is you could then use this mount, slide it on top. There you go. You've now got a super portable camera setup and it can record wirelessly to NDI. All right, so if you just imagine for a second that I had a bit of a shorter HDMI cable right here, this is the sort of setup you'd end up with. You'd have this device connected via HDMI directly to the camera, and it would be super portable. Now, obviously, you'd still need to power it. You could still use the Ethernet PoE port right here, but what might be easier is just using USB-C right there. So if you had a power port nearby, you could just use the included power adapter to supply power to it. So yeah, I've now set up something like this. So just again, imagine this cable is really short, like none of this is here. You've just got HDMI going straight from the camera into the capture card, which is the ZowieBox in this case, or you just got a single Ethernet port. And this is the output we get. So this is my kitchen. And what this would allow me to do is basically film any kind of cooking video or cooking stream, anything like that if I wanted to. Or I can move this, like it's pretty much a portable setup. The only cable that's not, you know, managed already is the Ethernet cable that goes back into the switch. But if you have network ports all around your house, then that's not really a problem. You can just plug it in locally. Again, you've also got Wi-Fi in here. So if you just had a USB-C charger laying around, you could plug it in over here instead and then use the Wi-Fi for NDI. But basically, yeah, this is a pretty cool little way to have a camera available wherever you need it. It works really well.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to cover in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Maybe check me out on Twitch or join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.